It began quietly, not with a scandal or an outbreak, but with a simple shift in biology. Children were born craving something they had never tasted. Their first breaths came with the faint tremor of need, their small lungs already aching for a substance older than any drug: nicotine. At first, doctors were confused. Hospitals filled with infants who wouldn't stop crying until exposed to trace amounts of smoke or vapor. When researchers tested their blood, they found nicotine, not introduced from outside, but produced naturally as if humanity's DNA had rewritten itself. It was a global mutation, unstoppable and absolute. Every newborn carried it. Soon society adapted. Pharmacies sold baby-safe nicotine supplements, pacifiers infused with vaporized doses, and government programs regulated the purity of air filters to avoid overdose. Streets filled with the soft hum of vapor vents, tall poles releasing steady clouds of calming smoke. Breathing became both a need and a comfort. By adolescence, everyone's dependency was normalized. Schools had vape recesses, short breaks where students gathered around communal vapor fountains. Cafes offered nicotine lattes, workplaces had built-in dispensers, and homes came with filtration systems to maintain the perfect balance between stimulation and serenity. Nobody questioned it. Nobody remembered life before it. Culturally, nicotine became sacred. Cities erected shrines to the breath of balance, celebrating the chemical that united humanity. People spoke of it as life's rhythm, inhaling together during national ceremonies, exhaling in synchrony like a global heartbeat. Every religion, every philosophy rewrote its view of existence around the same truth. Life was sustained by the burn. But beneath the calm, cracks appeared. The first generation to grow old under this new biology began to suffer. Their bodies aged faster, organs weakened from the constant stimulation. Some scientists tried to create a cure, a way to free humanity from its self-imposed dependence. But the people rejected it. They didn't want freedom, they wanted peace. In time, the Earth itself began to change. Vast nicotine forests covered continents, towering green plants with wide, pulsing leaves that exhaled smoke into the sky. The air thickened with haze, golden at sunrise and emerald at dusk. Breathing unfiltered air became a spiritual experience, almost euphoric. The planet smelled of warmth, smoke, and sweetness. Children no longer played with toys. They played with clouds, shaping vapor rings that glowed in the sunlight. Lovers met in fog-drenched parks where the air shimmered. Even the oceans took on a pale tint as microscopic nicotine algae spread across the surface, feeding the new balance of life. Yet, in this perfect calm, there were whispers of rebellion. A few claimed to have been born without the craving. The clear lungs. They said they could see the world sharply without the haze that softened everyone's vision. They spoke of stars bright and skies blue, colors the addicted could no longer see through the mist. The governments denied their existence. Clarity, they said, is madness. The few who refused to inhale were outcasts, living in sealed domes, breathing sterile air. To the addicted masses, they were ghosts, pale, fragile, unnatural, and so humanity continued to breathe. Generation after generation, the addiction became not a curse but an identity. The air hummed with quiet contentment. The nicotine forest pulsed with life. People no longer feared death. Their addiction made them calm, eternal, part of the same rhythm that filled the sky. No one remembered when it began. No one questioned why. The world had become one great inhalation, endless, gentle, and unbroken. Heartbeat of a planet addicted to peace,